Happy Monday. Good morning, everyone. Happy Supercharge Manifesting Monday. We call Mondays Supercharge Manifesting Monday. This segment every Monday morning is actually titled that. We haven't said it in a while, but the reason I called it that is, it's Monday morning and usually it's kind of like overwhelming. And so I thought I would jump on every Monday morning and do this segment. It's called Supercharge Manifesting because we talk a lot about the manifestation process, how to make your dreams a reality. Usually we focus on money, but there's so many other things in life that we're looking to manifest. So the conversation will go here, there, and everywhere. But like me, that I have been too excited way too excited for this morning and my special guest that I have on. And so I'm going to wait for a couple of you to join, say good morning to each other because that's how we roll. And as you know, this morning we're talking about visualization and the power of visualization. And I am a visualizing fanatic. That's the best way that I can describe it. I'm a visualizing fanatic. I've used it to completely change my life. It's one of the manifesting tools that blow my mind away over and over and over again. And let me put this in context. Before visualizing, I truly believed that the only way to create a result was hustle, grind, work really hard, especially the too early on a Monday morning, no coffee. We're not going to try to say that word. So, especially the big, massive ones that like live up here in your head and you're like, gosh, that would be so awesome one day down the road, but how? How am I going to do that? And when I realized I could see it in my mind as the process for creating it and not so much my effort, that still to this day, it's like falling in love for the first time. Like that still to this day blows my mind. So I know, oh my gosh, look, ridiculously excited about this. So it's not only me. Thank you. Good morning. Happy Monday. I know that we're live streaming to Jamaicans.com too. Good morning to all of you watching live there. So let's just jump right in. And I want to know how many of you have seen the movie Cool Runnings? Type Cool Runnings so I know that, like I wasn't the only one in the dark for a very long time. And when I posted about this live this morning, I saw so many people saying, I've watched this movie 10 times, 20 times. Some people were just getting to it. So I want to know if I really want to do a little poll and see how many of you have watched the movie Cool Runnings, because this guy that I'm about to introduce to you, that might be the way you know of him. I love it. Let's see. Cool Runnings. They're all like, yay to all the guys watching. I know you don't, you're not really always on here. But of course, if I bring a superstar guy, here you all are. So I love you anyway. And I see you. You know who you are. I'm not going to call any names. All right, guys. So let's jump right into this. My special guest this morning is Devon Harris. And if you've watched the movie Cool Runnings, then you know the improbable story of a Jamaican bobsled team that made the Winter Olympics in 1988. And so here's the funny thing. When I first watched this movie, I was newlywed and my husband at the time had a boat named Cool Runnings. And I just thought, and he was Chinese Jamaican. So I just thought, oh, that's just a really cool Jamaican thing to do. Name your boat Cool Runnings. And then he was like, no, actually there's a movie that I got inspired by. I was like, oh, well, let's see this movie. So I watched this movie, Cool Runnings, and I'm like, oh, here is just a great Hollywood depiction of something that never happened, because a Jamaican bobsled team, like what? Now, I grew up in Jamaica my whole life. I never heard of this happening. And so I really, for the longest time, watched the movie. It was all done. It said it was based on a true story. And I was like, absolutely not. There is no way. That's some Hollywood made up thing, right? So I meet this guy. And a few weeks, we've been talking back and forth for a few weeks about how I could bring him on to share with you. And I finally confessed to him that even though I'm here talking to you and I know that this really happened, a big part of my Jamaican self is still going, this cannot have happened. We live on a tropical island with palm trees. There's no snow. There's no way. And he said the most incredible thing to me. He said, Tasha, if the world knew the truth of what really happened, that the truth of this, that this story is based on, they'd be even more in awe than they are by what happened in the movie. And so hence we started talking about visualization and the power of it, because it was really improbable what they did, right? So I'm going to bring him on. So start smiling, Mr. Devon.
Well, buongiorno. It's
Ooh,
my favorite
so you
word.
gotta come up with some Jamaican. You can't be doing
Good
French.
morning, morning, morning.
Morning, morning,
I hope
morning,
everybody
morning.
all right. It's
Oh,
great to
I
see you,
love it.
Tasha. It's great to be hanging out with all your peeps out there in Facebook land, especially those on Jamaicans.com. Big up.
Respect.
Respect.
All right. So here's the thing, Devon. I really wanted to. We have people watching from all over the world who know you or of you because they saw the movie Cool Runnings, right? And so you know me, like I love to keep it real. So I would love for us to start with your story of growing up. Now, for the Jamaicans on here, when Devon says where he grew up, we are going to immediately know what that means. He literally just has to say the city, and we're going to know, we're going to have a whole story. I went to school with a girl who grew up there, and literally every morning we did roll call. I was like, is she going to be here today? Like literally to make it out of this area 18 and alive was your lifetime accomplishment. So Devon, once you start there and put in context, you're a little boy and where you grew up, what that was like.
Yeah, sure. So, of course, I grew up in Kingston for all the lovers of Jamaica. And in Kingston, I grew up in Olympic Gardens. And no, for the non-Jamaicans, that's not where we necessarily grow our Olympians. Um,
I never even thought of that.
Yeah, you know, and I know you some of you have probably seen those commercials. Come to Jamaica and feel all right. They weren't talking about my neighborhood at all. Olympic Gardens, or Waterhouse, as they call it, was a impoverished, violent ghetto neighborhood actually, and so that's where life kind of started for me. That's where I grew up, especially back in the 70s, man, early 80s when. The political violence was just on the rise, and Jamaica was kind of on a downward spiral. But the thing that kind of kept my focus were two things: school and sports. I discovered sports in primary school, elementary school, loved it. The thing I loved most about sports was the fact that regardless of whatever is happening in your life, whatever the lack or loss might be, how people may perceive you, when you step on that sports field, it's all about what's in you. And I think that's the thing that attracts so many athletes to sport, whichever discipline it is. And yeah, I can't say that I was dreaming of and visualizing becoming a Winter Olympian back then, Tasha, but hey.
You're probably dreaming just to make it out alive.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, so we're talking about visualization. I think it's a really important subject because, by the way, all of us, every single one of us, we visualize every single day. And so I'm a motivational speaker these days, and I show a picture of this lamppost outside of my gate in Waterhouse on Sunrise Drive for all you Kingstonians. And so when I was a teenager, that was my hangout spot. I would stand there and I would just dream. I would look up on Forest Hills and dream about doing, some cool things, being out of Waterhouse, quite frankly. The big dream I had back then, two of them, was one, to join the JDF as an officer, and the other was to become an Olympian, not a Winter Olympian, quite frankly. So
you can't do that. You can't do that. Wait a minute. Hold on. Even my Jamaican accent's coming out now. Pause. I never knew that. You had the dream to become an Olympian?
Yeah.
What were you thinking? Like in track or something?
In track, yeah. I ran, so in Jamaica, everybody sprints fast. I wasn't one of them. I ran 800 and 1500 meters because I just had to win something, damn it. And so here's the thing. So I started running track seriously. I started training at 15.
Which is really late, right? Isn't that like 15?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, but that's kind of when I got started. And it was 1979, the year before the Moscow Olympic Games. And ABC Wild World of Sports had this series going on, Road to Moscow. And in it, they featured all these Olympic athletes from around the world, different disciplines, telling their story. Now, most of us, when we think of Olympic athletes, we think of these superhuman beings. But as I was watching the stories, what I saw were very average and ordinary people. But they had these extraordinary dreams and an equally extraordinary desire to make those dreams come true, right? So they were visualizing, seeing themselves becoming Olympians, and then they were, I know you spoke about earlier about, thinking once upon a time that you need to put in this massive amount of work to make your dreams come true. And I don't want people to misconstrue that you just visualize and things just
Right.
happen, right?
Right.
You become motivated to do what I call inspired action, right? So I couldn't just stand at my lamppost and dream about being in the army and visualize that and then expect that one day it's going to happen, right? I had to do some things, right? Likewise, all of us Olympians as well. So that's how the dream and how I began to see myself as becoming an Olympian, because I was like, wow, look at him, look at her. They're very average and ordinary, but they have this dream, man. And so I started to harbor those crazy dreams as well.
Okay, so, oh my gosh, Devon, like when I tell you you're speaking my language, it's like we have a whole other language. And the people in my world are like lighting up the thing, inspired action, because I talk about that all the time. So here's the thing that, like makes us superhuman. When I say, and then and I'm so grateful you said that, right? Because most of us, we have impossible dreams. We have desires that we cannot fathom how they could manifest or become real. We just know that we have them, right? And the vast majority of people give up on them and walk away because it's like, there is no way I have the stamina, the wherewithal, the education, the know-how, the connections, the whatever that could ever make that impossible dream a reality, right? And so when I talk about visualization, like the things that I wanted to manifest in my life, the only way I knew to do it was the one little thing, which was effort, right? To work really hard. And even with effort, it seems so limiting. It's like, gosh, I'm going to have to work 32 hours a day to make this a reality.
Yeah.
So now you introduce the ability to see yourself in the impossible manifested. And then you're like, wait a second, I'm seeing it. And the magic that happens, and you said it, right? People that live their dreams, they have extraordinary dreams and also extraordinary desire. And that combination creates inspiration for you to do what you call it inspired action, which I say too. And it's the difference between working really hard and being inspired means now you're acting efficiently. You're not
and it doesn't mean that the work necessarily gets any easier. I mean,
right.
So we're talking about like those two big dreams that I started out with, trying to be an army officer and going to the Olympics. Trust me, there was nothing easy about it. And there were times where I go, oh my God, what have I got myself into? Why am I doing this? I remember, being at Sandhurst, Royal Military Academy. Sandhurst is for our American friends, the British equivalent of West Point. So that's where I did my training. And I can remember many nights, walking to the top of a hill and looking in the direction that I'm going, and all I can see are hills. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. This because it was my first time overseas. I'm like, people go overseas to see the countryside, but not like this. I'm walking, I'm supposed to be in a tourist bus, right? So yeah, but was I loving it? Absolutely. Did I want to do it? Absolutely. Was it always easy? No, and I think so when we talk about visualization and how we see as human beings, we have this. It's perhaps one of the greatest endowment and the most liberating endowment we have, to the ability to see in our mind's eye, right? And to really see that thing that we want to have happen in our lives. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen just by sitting down, as we said. Right. You're going to have to put the work in, but it's not working listlessly or aimlessly. It's like I said, it's inspired, it's fun. It's like you hear people talk about they haven't worked a day in their lives, right? Like I don't feel like I work.
Right.
Do I make effort every single day? Tremendous effort. And are there times when I'm a little frustrated? Absolutely, because I'm impatient. I have had this term that I described myself when I was a teenager. I'm patiently impatient. No, no, that might sound confusing to some people, but let me explain. What I mean is, I understand it's going to take me some time, man, to manifest that which I want, to achieve that what I want. Right? There's this learning curve, right? When bobsledding, for example, you're from Jamaica, you've never seen a bobsled before, and it's September 1987 when you're going to go compete in the Olympics in February 88. Well, there are a few things that you need to learn. Like,
Hold on. Okay. So let me put this in context because everybody knows Jamaica on the world stage, right? As we are like track and field, like we own that. Darian, I love you from Antigua. No, you love your little track and field, but we're gonna make you an honorary Jamaican someday.
yeah, man, absolutely.
So we are known for track and field, right? And all right, that's cool. We have lots of cane fields and roads and like tracks, and so we can run. But here is this, they pulled together this team for bobsledding, which go figure, and one of the things that you shared with me is I think none of you had seen a bobsled.
Yeah, that's true. So let me back up a little bit and talk about the visualization and how it creates this, really cool situations in our lives. Because, I remember I'm 21 years old and I'm walking down to the officer's mess and I'm having this really intense conversation with myself. I'm like, so you're 21, you've achieved your big dream, you're an army officer. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? I'm like, come on, man, what's up? And then I go, oh yeah, the Olympics. The Olympics were coming up. It was 1987. The Olympics were coming up in 1988 in Seoul, Korea. And I'm thinking, well, if I start training now, I could probably get fit enough to qualify for the Olympics. So I start running my 5 miles every morning before I had to report for duty. There are some mornings I would purposefully leave for my run late, knowing that I can't report for duty late. What does that mean? I have to run harder. Start trying to be creative. I get the training in, man, and run about that time. So 2 Americans who lived in Jamaica came up with the idea to start the bobsled team. And I was in the army, and the colonel saw me running and go, oh, he's fit. And so he thought he'd send me to the team trials. So again, when we're talking about visualization and how this kind of crazy quirks and situations arise, here it is that I'm dreaming and visualizing about going to the Olympic Games in 1988. And out of the blue, this opportunity just coming from the side. And I do go to the Olympics in 1988 ahead of schedule, doing something even cooler than, we have so many, Summer Olympians. It's just so much cooler to be a Winter Olympian, I think.
I love it. So one of the things that you said, was, if you could now like really start to share about, okay, so we've never seen a bobsled, right? And now we're the Jamaica International Bobsled Team. How does visualization, first of all, by the way, Devon has to go, and usually this is a 15-minute segment. So could you help me convince him to come back next week? So guys,
I don't know.
Come on, those of you that are watching, type. See you next week, Devon. Let's invite him.
If I can hear them say, feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme, get on up, it's bobsled time, I might come back.
Come on! Did you hear what he said? Start typing. If you type that, I think we might get him to come back because there's so much I want to ask. So, but yeah, you haven't seen a bobsled before. Like, can you share, you were a kid, you were dreaming your whole life. You realize now you were a dreamer. And how did that skill help you and they're all typing, see you next week. How did that help you in this amazing opportunity that you now have?
Well, here's the thing. I have been using visualization long before I knew the word. I mean, when I ran track, I visualized the races, especially those races that were difficult for me to win. I remember I said I'm not a sprinter, I'm a middle distance runner, and I would run like the 400-meter in Jamaica. Or Jamaicans would know about Sports Day. Yes, I ran 800 and 1500, and I run the 400 as well, which I have absolutely no business winning. And I remember this one particular year, this guy in the heats, he ran a time I've only dreamt of running. And I,
One of my
and I
favorite
went home.
stories. I love this story.
Yeah. And that night, I honestly, I didn't sleep. I was in a stupor because all I was doing is visualizing this myself running the race. That's always in my head for the entire night. And I woke up the next morning. I went to school early, and I went to the track, and I walked around the track visualizing myself running. And I'm like, I don't know how this is going to happen. I'm either going to have to run faster or he's going to have to run slower, but I'm winning this race. I won the race.
So what? So he ran slower? What happened?
He ran slower, yeah, of course.
Like, right? That's
Because
really
that's
cool.
the thing too. I mean, does visualizing sometimes create some results that we think are miraculous? Absolutely. And but yeah, maybe even though he didn't run as fast as he ran, and I won, it was miraculous. But that's how it works. So yeah, I get into bobsledding not knowing the sport. I mean, the only thing I knew about bobsledding was that it was fast and dangerous. And we went to Lake Placid, New York in September of 1987, and we saw a bobsled for the first time. We saw a bobsled track for the first time, and just trying to figure out how the hell. Like, I remember looking at the track and where the curve, the corner comes, and the straightaway, it's so narrow, and I'm like, how the hell are we ever going to get through that? And then I remember that there are other people who are doing it as well. I'm like, well, if they have done it, I guess we can do it too. So you just after that, you just kind of apply yourself, and there's a lot of visualization that takes place I want to say in all Olympic sports, but definitely bobsled drivers visualize all the time. I mean, there's just really no safe way to get down the track without visualizing. You're going to kill yourself by corner one. And so that's kind of when I really consciously, I would say, started to employ this whole visualization thing, especially when I became a driver. I started to get better at it because it's a skill. Visualization is a skill. And I remember, like, during my first year driving bobsleds, so when you go to a bobsled race or a training, right, we all hang out in the warm house, it's called. It's this warm room. Oh, you didn't think we hang out outside in the cold, did you? You're kidding. It's cold. I'm from Jamaica. So I'm in the warm house, and it's crazy, just lots of activity, and you're there visualizing, driving the track in your mind. And it's so distracting with everything that's going on around you. So I used to go in the bathroom and go sit in a cubicle, and so I could have some solace, some solitude. And I would visualize that my brakeman would come and knock on the door, like 5 sleds to go. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm out there. But now I can do that. It doesn't matter how noisy it gets. I've gotten better at it, right? So it doesn't matter what you're trying to achieve and accomplish and improve in your life, performance, or to manifest a goal. You can start where you are and just get better at this thing called visualization.
All right, so a couple things. One of the things that I teach a lot, and those of you that are in our family and our community, you hear me say this all the time, but if you've never heard me say it, one of the things that I get from Devon's story and I live by is visualization is like an access point. It's kind of like the connection. It's a major part of the connection between your dreams and it becoming reality. And the piece that we have to learn is how is none of your business. That's the thing I want you all to type. Like, how is none of my business? I'm going to visualize. I'm going to show up for training. I'm going to, run and have the officer randomly see me right in the time frame that I'm thinking, oh, my next goal is the Olympics. Like, you see what I mean? You can't you can't figure out in your conscious mind, your little tiny conscious mind, all the pieces that are going to come together for your dream to materialize. But what you can do is completely focus on its materialization. Like that's your part. Your part is the asking and the seeing. God, source, the universe, it takes care of the how, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we get confused. We try to do God's job. we struggle and strive, and then we get frustrated and we give up on our dreams. And that's the most heartbreaking thing. You know, it's like this guy, it's 1987. He remembers he has the next life goal to become an Olympian. And you're kidding me? Like in a few months, he's in the Winter Olympics. If that doesn't blow your mind and make you want to at least give this a try or get back to visualization, like why aren't you doing it? I don't know what would.
Yeah,
So
you made a really good point there, though, Tasha, about the how is none of your business, because
mhm.
you might see yourself in an environment that doesn't suggest that success is even remotely possible. There's just nothing, or that particular goal is even remotely possible. And I remember when I was a kid standing by that lamppost and I'm looking around my environment in Waterhouse there, and having this lofty goal to become an officer in the JDF, and it's like, but how? And I was like, I don't know, I just have to. I just like, this is like, yeah, how? And you go through the process. And for me, it was really, staying in school. And, I'm in sixth form, at 19, I'm the only, kid at my age in school, and they
Right.
call him a school man. You're a school man, you're not a school boy, like.
You're a school man, you're 19,
A school
you're
boy,
old.
but it just like relax and chill and, suck some humble salts and carry on. And then, yeah, when, the selection process to get in was incredibly challenging, but boy, yeah, you just, again, the effort, because you have that desire
Yeah.
to make it happen. And so there comes that time when you go, okay, you visualize, and now you've found yourself on the cusp and you have to get over the hump, right? And it's going to require some elbow grease, as we spoke
Yeah.
about, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't, because don't get fooled. Don't be mistaken, again, as a point I've made before, that because you visualize, it's just going to necessarily fall in your lap. There's some stuff you have to do. You're going to be placed in the environment, and you go, oh, you can't go, okay, so I've been visualizing becoming an army officer. I'm at the selection board. Oh, it's over. No, I've been visualizing about going to the Olympics, and now I'm at the team trials. No, it's not. Yeah, no, it's like time to, where the work and the elbow grease comes into play.
Yeah. One of the visuals I give my people, my students is, like the visualization is you've placed the order on Amazon.com, right? You put it in, you're like, it says being delivered September 30th. You're like, all right, it's on its way. I know it's on its way. It says it's coming. It says it's going to be delivered. And so you visualized, and now the guy shows up at the door and rings the doorbell. If you do not take the action to open the door, you are never going to receive this package. And
Yeah.
for me, a recovering workaholic, what I had to realize was, oh my God, like that's that's like 10% of the making it real is just to get up and open the door. Like, like you said, you're not the selection process. That point might be challenging, yes, to get through it, to qualify or whatever. But in comparison to striving for 15 years trying to figure out how and do all this, to me, I'd rather take the few days and like go through the challenge then to qualify and make it real.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to, and that's a great analogy, like you did all this work to materialize this thing, and all you needed to do now is get up off the sofa and open the door. And you're like, no, I'm visualizing still. It's going to just miraculously appear by my side. And no,
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
up.
Oh my gosh. All right. So Devon has to go. So here's what I want you guys to do. First of all, a couple things.
Oh, oops, yes, I definitely
Yes.
have to go.
I was so enthralled. I went way over. So devonharris.com. I want you guys to go to his website. And here's the thing. I just ordered a bunch of copies of his book, Keep On Pushing. I would love if, as a community, we all get the book. So if you're going to do this with me, buy the book, and we'll get it in a couple days, and we can all know that we're in the vibration of reading it together. That would be awesome. So can you type book?
We could even have some conversations about some of the lessons in the book, because it's Keep On Pushing Hot Lessons from Cool Runnings. I'll be happy to share some of those.
Ooh, and do they come directly from you? Like, do you autograph them?
Yeah, yeah, I'd be happy to sign them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So see, like you got special hookups. So go ahead, everybody. DevonHarris.com. Number one assignment for the day is to go order the book so we can all be enjoying it together. And number two, plan to be here 8 o'clock next Monday, because I want to talk a little bit more about the importance of feeling in visualization, and also how we transfer. Devon shared a lot about his life and the story of using visualization in bobsledding, but how do we transfer this power in life, like money and business and relationships, and how do we use it to create in the other areas of our life? So we'll see you here next Monday morning at 8 a.m. Devon, is there any parting love you want to give us before we go?
What I tell people all the time, keep on pushing.
Yes.
Right. I love being here, but I have to sprint now, guys. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to next week. I'll be here.
All right, guys. Bye, Devon. Thank you. Bye, everyone.